Hi, I am Dr. Kim Sage. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to my channel. I truly am so glad you're here. You might be hearing some chaos while I'm filming because my very tiny kitten, who's getting bigger by the day, is wreaking havoc right now. This is my only window for filming videos this week, so I hope you will bear with me. I'm sure she'll jump up here at some point. What we're talking about, though, is this concept of how your childhood really truly impacts who you choose, how long you stay, what you tolerate, what you don't, and all of that stuff in terms of also how you see yourself, what you accept or don't about yourself. You know, that true core of sense of self is so deeply impacted by our childhoods, I believe. And the research is very clear on the physical impacts. So we know there are just profound impacts of difficult childhoods, and that they live in our attachments and relationships and in our bodies and our nervous systems. And then of course we have genetic, dynamics around certain mental health issues, around certain physical health issues, and all of those can really impact how a certain type of experience, maybe that gene gets turned off or on based on our childhood. And so I really want to share videos that really do three things. My goal, and I just said this recently on TikTok. One of them is that I want you to know that if you might benefit from therapy, watching my videos, I hope will help you understand if maybe you could benefit from a really wonderful, strong relationship with a therapist. Number two, if you have not yet chosen a partner and or not yet had children, I wish to God I had been able to understand more about my childhood before I made the lifelong commitments to choosing a partner and having children, because nothing, I believe, impacts that choice more, especially once you have kids, because you cannot just, for most of us, you are tied to that person for the rest of your life. And then your children often suffer as a result of your unhealed trauma and your partners. And then the unhealed trauma you often create together, whether you are married or not, or divorced or not, even if you lose them, the trauma can live on forever. And lastly, I make videos for those of you who are in these relationships. You've already chosen a partner, you've already had kids, and or that happened and ended, and you still need to understand the worthiness of your own struggle and your validation, and you don't yet understand the why sometimes about what happened to you or where to go from here. So that's why I do this. Really quickly, if you're new here, please consider subscribing and clicking that little box, which will let you know when I post new videos. And really quickly, if you are new here, and if you're not, feel free to fast forward, but just a quick reminder, I have 3 courses. One is a free course, and then 2 paid courses. One called Borderline and Narcissistic Parents, Healing and Dealing with Your Trauma, and it is full of exercises and journal work, many videos, 75 lessons in all, meditations, affirmations, journal exercises. And then this course called Remothered. It's about healing the internal child and the internal parent and how to set up your life. It is a shorter course with, I believe, around 30 or so lessons, videos, meditations, affirmations, all of that. Okay, let's get into it. So what I want you to walk away from today's video really understanding is how in a very complicated, toxic, untreated, borderline or narcissistic or emotionally immature family system, you often emerge with one principle in mind. And that is this, that emotional chaos is normal. I'm going to say it again. Emotional chaos is normal. And so in your family, it was like good or bad or up or down or whatever it was. There was always drama. There were job changes. There was parents fighting, there were toxic sibling relationships, there was just a lot of difficulty. And so in that family system, what we're talking about with emotional chaos, what I mean by that is that you never truly felt safe. And I mean almost ever. So in all families, we have periods and seasons of illness, divorce. There are times when parents cannot parent from their best self because they are just trying to not drown and provide. And this happens a lot, like I'm saying, whether a parent is, no longer here, or a parent suffering with an illness, or there's a divorce, right? These types of things, or mentally ill siblings. There are seasons in our life where our parents are not doing their best job, but it is not because they're not trying. And then there are parents who they were always this way. it was always emotionally unsafe. And that is what we're really talking about. Emotional chaos equals lack of consistent emotional safety, right? So when you don't feel truly safe, and I mean physically, mentally, emotionally safe in a relationship, you are living in that very activated, hyper-vigilant state where you never know what to expect next. And you take that system because it has been wired into you, and that is often the relationship that you choose in partners. You will choose more emotionally chaotic partners, even if you will swear to me up and down they look so different. Trust me, down the road it's often a lot of the same feelings. So how does that happen? That's the really purpose of this video too. Number one, it happens because we don't recognize emotional chaos in others when that has been our norm. Now, what it often looks like is we like dynamic people or dramatic people or interesting people, right? We are looking for a caretaker, and oftentimes if we had a more borderline dynamic, we can often choose a narcissistic partner thinking that they don't seem so emotionally chaotic except for the anger part in many of them, but initially they can seem very holding and containing. So whether it's your friendships and your boss that you initially loved and now you can't stand, your neighbors, your relationships for sure, there's often this thing where you just don't see the signs because it was so normal, that was just how it was in your family. So we don't recognize it and we normalize it. The next thing that can happen for us is we're often addicted to this emotional chaos. And so it keeps us in fight or flight, and we kind of know what to do with that. And being in fight or flight is a distraction. So what does this look like in real life? What this looks like is you had this childhood with emotionally unsafe, unpredictable parents. You choose a partner who seems so different, but as the relationship plays out, you start to realize that in order to have this relationship work on some level, from all the way up here, chaos and really intense, to down here, where it's like you just never can feel emotionally connected and intimate and vulnerable, you have learned to be in hyper-vigilant fight or flight. And so you're used to that. In fact, your body is so addicted to these chemicals, you don't even really know how to relax, how to slow down, how to meditate, how to be mindful. It's really, really difficult. And so that becomes its own addiction. It's so normal. You expect to be that way. And sometimes you might even be creating the chaos yourself and not realizing it because you're so used to looking for issues. And maybe you did choose a healthier partner, but maybe you're the one that brings the chaos because you're so used to it. And so you're often thinking your partner's cheating on you or leaving you or something's gonna happen to them, right? It could just be your fears. But all of that acts to keep you anxious and distracted or depressed and shut down, but then, kind of hopping up into some kind of a trauma response, like I'm saying, a fight or flight or a collapse. But all of it acts as a distraction against you really understanding that this emotional chaos is not good for you, the relationship, or normal. So without the chaos, let's say a magic wand came in and got rid of it, what often happens to us is that we feel really unhappy because we don't know what our role is. Remember, we're often caretakers. We're often very sensitive, often caretakers. And if that role were to suddenly disappear, now we have to look at ourselves. And we often don't know how or even want to do that because there's a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lack of knowledge about what's really happening. And if we had to look at it, we might have to actually think about changing it. And that can be really difficult. And then basically, let's say that happens, then if there is some kind of respite from that kind of situation of the chaos, that can trigger our deep vulnerability, like I'm saying, and issues around identity, and like who are we, because we're so used to being these caretakers or behaving in certain ways in relationships. And if that all happened, it would then force us, like I'm saying, to not only change it or think about changing it, because we're usually not very happy in that when we really uncover it. We were often very unhappy and didn't even know it. We would have to ask ourselves, okay, what do I need and what do I want? And that can be so terrifying, so scary. And I found that most people kind of split into two camps when they realize these things. They tend to stay in that very collapsed, helpless, it feels like more of a victim, like, but I don't know what else to do. This is my role, and so I'll just keep doing it, but I'll be really unhappy. But they're kind of frozen. And the other one is the overachievers, overdoers. I can fix everything. I can do everything. And I've talked a lot about in other videos how that gets rewarded in the world, right? You're more independent, you get things done. And if I had to pick, I'd probably pick that one because, like, for me, that one has helped me survive. But that one comes with its own set of issues, right? Often ignoring our sense of well-being in our bodies, ignoring health issues, living in fight or flight, which has really catastrophic impacts on our bodies in terms of our health. And so the collapsed one is also deeply hurtful to our ability to function in life, because we stay in really bad toxic situations and don't know how to get out. So, neither one of those is ideal, but the problem is if we had to stop the chaos, we would have to then look at what our role is in it, how we chose, why we stayed, what we want to change, who we are. And frankly, I found that most of us didn't even know we were that deep into it until something happened, like we really had to face it. Something catastrophic happened. Maybe the partner left you, the partner died, whatever it was. And it can be really scary. And oftentimes you've lost your sense of self, as I discussed last week, and you don't even know who you are. So how do you pick up the pieces? How do you find identity? How do you repair? Can truly be a very daunting, overwhelming, and arduous task. So that is the bottom line about emotional chaos. So if this is you and you say, yes, I do believe I had a more emotionally unsafe and chaotic childhood, and you think, but my marriage is fine, I would encourage you to look at the feelings you have in two ways. Either you say, yeah, it is bad and I see the signs, and write those down. But if you think, well, I don't think I have that, maybe you don't. And I'm not suggesting that you do. Maybe you've found a way to work through it. But oftentimes the deeply buried feelings, the ones you don't say out loud, hold the keys and the secret to what you really are struggling with. So the first step is to begin to identify what happened, what was the pattern in childhood, and what may or may not be happening. And if it's not happening, great. Then what are you doing that helps you, heal, or has helped it not kind of devolve into that chaotic situation? What are your strengths? What do you need to be aware of and mindful of so that it doesn't go down that road? So that's the bottom line of this video. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Please stay safe and well, and I will see you tomorrow.